when have you faced your own imposter syndrome, and what advice would you have for someone who's perhaps currently facing imposter syndrome?
That's a great question. I think the first time where it hit me really hard in terms of like work and career, I'd say like the end of my senior years, I'm applying for jobs and I'm getting a bunch of no's and denial letters. Imposter syndrome kicks in pretty heavy. That scenario, I just kept applying and finally something cracked, something worked, right?
Okay.
And, you know, obviously got good feedback from mentors about my resume, and they helped me get my act together, get my interviewing skills sharp and where they needed to be to close deals on job interviews. As for like career-wise, yeah, I think my first job in cyber, yeah, I felt like an imposter. And I think the reason why we feel imposter syndrome is because I think it's because the idea we think we're immediately supposed to be good at anything we do. You just got started. Why would you be so, you know, why would you be so hard on yourself? You just started, you're learning something new. You're not supposed to be an expert in a day. You know, there are folks who've been in this industry, been in the field of tech 10, 20, 30 years, and they'll still tell you, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still,
absolutely,
today's day one, right? I'm still getting to it. And I think the reason why we feel imposter syndrome is because we put all this pressure on ourselves and we think that we're supposed to know everything on day one. I think understanding one, you know, you're not going to know everything. And two, you got to give yourself a little grace, because you have to, are you putting in the work? Are you learning? Are you trying your best? You are, okay, then it's going to take some time. You can't rush time, right? I'm not going to have a director level managerial experience, you know, unless I put in the time to lead teams. That's just not right. I'm not going to come out of college, you know, being able to lead teams of engineers if I haven't done the work that they've done to some capacity. Right.
Okay.
So understanding that, hey, I'm doing the best I can. And, you know, this just means I'm pushing myself. I'm learning something new. I think imposter syndrome is not a bad thing. It's a good thing if you understand that you're learning something new. You're being aware that, oh, I'm doing something new, which is why I feel this imposter syndrome, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
And once you understand that, like, okay, well, I need to keep working hard so I can get more imposter syndrome, because that means I'm pushing myself. If you don't know how hard you're pushing yourself, do you feel like an imposter to a degree? Not completely, but to a degree. Do you feel a little imposter syndrome? Do you feel a little incompetent? Then that's where you need to be. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think there's always this, I've read by a couple of different psychologists, there's like this utility of the fool, where, you know, it's sort of important to actually be a fool to some degree, you know, having the self-awareness, obviously, to be like, no, I'm competent in some things, but also having the humility to say, no, I'm a fool in certain things, because that allows you to sort of learn a little more, to play with ideas and such. So I definitely think utility in the fool is a little important, and absolutely. And then also, because you spoke about how a few years ago, you know, you didn't really even have the soft skills to communicate, even though right now I feel like we're having a great, wonderful conversation. What would you say are some tidbits for, especially for people, you know, within IT? I think there's that mindset of like people who are in tech are just like these geeky nerds who are just always on a computer and such. What advice would you share for someone who wants to just further develop their soft skills mainly in communication, whether or not they want to be a manager, but just being a more effective communicator?
That's a great question. That's a great question. I think I believe, in my opinion, I think, you know, there are some of us, some of us, it's easier for us to be extroverted than introvert. Some of us are more introverted. You know, I would never say an introvert needs to become an extrovert. It's more of, hey, you're like, how can you work on your weaknesses where you can get them high enough level where you could do better work, right? You could do better, you can get better outcomes. And I think if you want to work on your communication skills, you know, you got to be very comfortable meeting new people and talking to new people. You know, you got to be, you just got to keep doing it. And for me, that's how it came. Like, you have to meet people. You have to have conversations. You have to, you know, me and you, we've never had a long conversation before. This is our first long conversation, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
You have to be comfortable with having long conversations with people you've never met, you know, getting to know people, asking deeper questions. You know, I think to sharpen your communication skills, you have to, you have to meet new people. You have to practice, right? You have to practice your communication skills by talking and meeting new people. And number two, you have to read, right? Reading is fundamental. You have to read. And number three, it's part of number two, but study great communicators. Study
Absolutely.
great communicators. Who are the most dangerous and most competent communicators that you know of, right? Okay. Look it up. There are people who are world-class communicators. You know, if it's hard to find any executive who's not working on their communication skills all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's hard to find any sales professional who's not working on a competent sales professional, work on their communication skills. So if you really want to improve your communication skills, it's something you have to practice. And the way you practice that is by reading, meeting new people all the time, and studying great communicators, in my opinion.